Hello and welcome to this video. This is the third video of our Microsoft Excel hacks series. And today we are going to talk about relative and absolute cell referencing in Microsoft Excel. We are going to see exactly what is the difference between the two and at what point do you use one over the other one. And before we start, kindly consider subscribing to our channel. Please like this video and share it with your friends so that they can also benefit. We'll continue updating you on this Microsoft Excel series as well as on other matters pertaining to ICT on this channel. So let's go right ahead to our exercise today. So I have this data set, and this data set is borrowed from our previous video. If you have not watched our previous video, I'm going to leave it in the description below. You can watch it so that you can get to know how we came up with this data. And in this data, I specifically want to show you quite a number of things because it's just a random data, and it represents sales of a certain organization known as ABC. And during our previous video, we were able to compute quite a number of things. And one of the things that we did is that we were able to compute these total sales. And if we click on this cell that contains total sales, we can be able to see that over here in the formula bar, we are able to see the formula for the total sales for that particular year. And in this case, we can see the formula for year 2017 makes reference to cell B3 as well as cell B8. If we drag that particular cell across, you find that the cell that is being made reference to keeps on changing. Like in this case, we can see that here we have cell C3 and cell C8. When we come here, we have cell D3 and then cell D8. When we come here, we have cell E3 and cell E8. And finally, in the year 2021, we are making a reference to cell F3 and all the way up to cell F8. Now, the big question that we're asking ourselves is, although we know that we automated or we auto-generated these figures that we have over here, because all we did was to put the function and then we dragged it across, we realized that when we move from one column to the other, or when we move from one cell to the other, the cell reference keeps on changing. And that is what we call relative cell referencing. That when you move from one cell to another, the cell reference changes. So the cell that is being referenced is relative to the cell that you are currently in. Just to put a very good example here, let me just perhaps find the average of the sales over here and say E is equal to average. Then in this case, average will range from here, which is cell B3, all the way to cell B8. So I put my reference is cell B3 all the way to cell B8, and when I close my braces, I click enter, we can see that the average sales is $4,800. So if I drag this across for autofill to happen, you realize that in each and every cell they are going to compute the average sales. And for example, if I come to the year 2018, the average sales is $10,493. And the cell reference, you can notice here in the formula bar that now it is making reference now to cell C3 all the way to C8, whereas in the initial cell where I had put the formula, it was making reference to cell B3 and cell B8. So you realize that relative cell referencing simply means that the cell that is being referenced to changes relative to where the function is being applied. But now there are scenarios in which you would want your cells to make reference to a constant figure that is contained in a certain cell. So you don't want that particular figure to change, or you don't want the cell that is being made reference to change. A very good example is, let's assume that these total sales were to be subjected to a tax of 16%. If they were to be subjected to a tax of 16%, then we can come here to cell G2 and put our tax rate, which is 16%. And now, in each of these years, we try and compute what amount would be paid as tax by this organization for the half-year sales that they have made in each of these years. So in that case, if we come and say is equal to product, because tax is usually a multiplication of the sales and the tax rate, this is equal to product. The sales here are in cell B9, then we are multiplying B9 with this cell, which is here G2. You realize that for us now to be able to make constant reference to cell G2, we put a $sign. So we say $G to mean column G. Then we put another $sign 2 to mean column, G2 specifically, and then we click enter. So the moment we enter there, it will compute for us the tax that is supposed to be paid. And if we cut across, or we drag this one across, and even we come to this year 2021, you realize that the reference that is being made here is still to cell G2, which is the cell that we have over here. So these dollar signs, they are helping us to maintain a constant reference to this specific cell G2. So the first dollar sign is just before G to mean that you don't want to change that particular column. The second dollar sign is where we have 2, which means that you don't want to change that particular row. So at the intersection of this particular column and this particular row, the figure that is contained there then becomes constant. And as usual, we always said that anytime you are dealing with currency, it's always good to change the data type. So let us go ahead and change this data type. So we right click, we go to format cells, then we change the data type to currency. Change the data type here to currency data type, and we click OK, so that we can have it in form of dollars. We can equally copy the format. Like if we come here and put the format there, be able to copy the format across, and you can be able to do that for all the other cells that are remaining, so that you have cells that have the same format. You can also just come here and put it, you can just come here and put it to font 20 so that it is clear for everybody to see. You can put it at font 20, and now you can see that we have the tax that is supposed to be paid. So here you can say tax to be paid. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the end, and we have been able to learn about relative and absolute cell referencing. And we have said that in relative cell referencing, the cell that is being made reference to changes relative to where the formula is being applied. For instance, in this case, in the first cell over here, we are making reference to B3 and B8. But when we move here, we realize that now we are making reference to cell C3, C8, because the cell that we have, the formula now is put in, is this cell which is C10. But now with absolute cell referencing, you are able to have a constant cell that you can make reference to. And ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of our video. Please continue subscribing to our channel. We'll keep you updated on this series and on any other video that we post.